Hello, my name's Brent, and today we're going to be doing some Backbone. This is the first tutorial. I might do more depending on how the feedback I get from this. I'm not a JavaScript expert, but I have been using JavaScript for the last 6 months. I was originally a PHP developer, and recently I've been doing a lot of mobile apps. And I found getting resources for Backbone and tutorials and learning is quite difficult, and giving back to the community would be a good thing for me to do. So first things first, I've dropped a start.zip in the project. I'm just gonna sort that one out because I had to re-record this due to a issue with my screen recorder. One thing I can't do is when I'm typing I can't talk because of the way I'm recording this. So for the minute, this raw file is going to be put in the YouTube link, and that will get you started where I am now. I'm going to talk you through it. We've got an index file, we've got a link to a CSS file which actually doesn't exist yet. We'll create that one later. We've got div ID app, and this is basically going to be where almost like a wrapper in a sense that the app's going to sit in. So this is all your index file is ever going to look like, which is good. It keeps it clean. And what we do here, we actually use a number of frameworks for Backbone. Require is one of them. As we go through the different frameworks, I'll talk through them to the best of my knowledge. If I get a few things wrong, it's probably because I've understood it wrong, but it still works. But let's just go and see what you think. So first thing first, we need to we need to load the app. What I've done, we've got data main, and it goes to app/start. If you look here, we've got app and start. Now, if you've used require before, a lot of people stick the require configuration in the initialization. I think that's a kind of a bad practice, mainly because it clutters the hell out of the initiation file, the start file, whatever you want to call it. So we've split it up. So we've actually got a core folder, and we're going to stick everything that relates to the core of the project in there, anything that we want to share across views. In there we've got a require config. Now we've got paths to certain frameworks. Require_backbone text. Text is one I personally really enjoy for outputting HTML in Backbone. It works a little like Blade or Twig or Smarty, if anyone's ever used any of them coming from a PHP background. Shim basically tells Backbone it's dependent on these frameworks, so it's depending on underscore and jQuery, and it's going to be exported as Backbone. So if you had jQuery here, you could export as $1, for instance, if you've ever used jQuery. Now, I don't think you actually need to use jQuery for Backbone, but I think it's useful as long as you're only selecting within the current view you're in. I mean, you're not selecting from the global scope. So, let's get started, and we're going to take a look at the start.js. Now, we've required for require config, which is what we just talked about, and we're going to require Backbone. When you require things in, you need to actually make sure the order is correct on either side. So we require Backbone, and we have Backbone. Simple as that. So I've created a simple view here, and it's called global view. And this is what's going to be, we'll call it the global view because we can store things in there, we can store variables, we want to pass around views, we can trigger things from it. We can do basically everything from it, and we're going to pass this view down the whole food chain, and that's going to allow us to do a lot of crazy stuff with Backbone. That's one of the reasons why I really like this framework, and I've really come to love it. So we're going to basically require that file into this start.js. It's as simple as global view. Okay, and we're going to give it a name. I'm going to load it in. So simple as just really binding it to a variable and calling the new class name, I guess. Okay, so I think that should be it. Now to test this works, we're going to just do a console log. I'm going to talk you through this as well. So element is the thing we're selecting. If you look in the index, we've got an app, and that's what we're going to bind this view to. We've got a initialize that gets every time Backbone runs a view, it runs initialize, and we're going to call this dot render, and that's going to render this function. This is going to call this function. We could call this whatever we wanted to, but I just call it render. It's nice and easy, and I think a lot of other people use it. So we're going to console log. I haven't actually tested this yet, so if we find bugs, we're gonna fix them together, no matter how long it takes. I can be sometimes quite slow at trying to fix things, but I'll try and go as fast as I can. So console log got here, so we're gonna refresh. We got here, which is great. So what we're gonna do in this view, we're gonna basically call a like a template, and we're just going to load it into the view. So in this dot render, we're going to go this jQuery selector EL, which is the element up here, and we're going to do HTML. And try that one out. So for refresh, we got yay, and if you look, actually put it inside of the app view, which is what we wanted. Okay, so I'm going to grab a quick Bootstrap template, and we'll work from that. Bootstrap CSS, like that, be good. We're going to use the Bootstrap CSS just for demo purposes. That loaded okay. Yeah, I think that should be sufficient. Cool. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to create this base view, and all it's going to be in there is just a template with just a wrapper class around it, like div class container. That should be fine for the minute. So we're going to create a template folder. So we're going to new folder. Pardon me. And then here we're going to call this core. Here we're going to create a new file called wrapper. Okay, so in the global view, we're going to require that template in, which is pretty straightforward. We're going to do template. Now we're going to use the templating engine called Text, which is really good. Okay, that looks good. So instead of
pushing some HTML to it. We're actually going to push this template to it. We don't even use text here. It's just useful to get into this good practice. So inside of wrapper, I have a container. I think that should be fine. Yeah, that happened because the template directory wasn't inside of the app directory. So we're just going to move. Can I move this? Maybe not. That'll do. Okay, cool. Just test that. And I called it templates. So. Ooh. Okay, let's inspect. You can see we've got a container. So this is going to be where we push views. Okay. So in our global view, we're going to create a place where we can push views into this wrapper, which is going to be really useful. And we're going to append it to, say, a row. I think will be good. Okay, so inside of templates, I'm just going to add a row. And that's where we're going to push the HTML of the main view. So if you wanted to create a header and a footer, we can do that, but we'll do that inside of the router, because I think that's probably the best place to do it, because that will stay on each view. You can probably do it in here as well, but I prefer doing it in the router. So what I'm going to do now is let's have a little think then. I think now is the time we actually need to create the router. So we're going to create, we require a router. I'm going to find it to a name. And when this gets too large, you can always press enter and make this a bit more tidy. I've got quite a large screen, so I don't have that problem. I'll bump the font up actually. So we'll create a new folder file in core. We're going to call it router. And we're going to define require. Define is something that requires. I'm not too sure on the technicalities. You can have a little look at that on Google. So we're going to define require. I'm just going to change this into a JS file. We're also going to bring in backbone, because we always need it. Here's where we can put any variables that we want to do. So we're going to return a backbone router. Okay, cool. So here we have a initialize function like we do reviews. So initialize gets called every time. We're just going to write that here anyway. We don't have to, but we can. We're going to pass it some things. So we're just going to type options. Now this is the URL path. I'll talk through it a bit more, but this is your normal path. This could be home and whatever, and this is actually call a function. So we're going to get a dashboard function. So, let's think. So we've got router. Yeah, let's just do. We'll keep it simple, and then we're going to obviously, if you had things loading in this view first, like fetches, you could do view.on ready or something like that. We'll talk about events, but I want to start off with the basics. So let's take a look. To start the routes, you actually need to type something, and it's backbone history.start. Hoping that works. Okay, we got loaded. That's great. So one thing we're going to do, we're going to pass the global view into the router, and that means we can access the global view all the time, which is pretty useful. So we're going to call this fairly straightforward. We're going to pass in a variable object, and it's going to have this view in here. If we look at the router, we have options. So when you know I was saying initialize gets called every time, we've just passed in this view. So we'll go cool. And we're just going to console log that as well, just to see what we got. Awesome. So one other thing we're going to do there is actually just do cool. So we've got access to the main view. So if we want to call a function in the global view, so we could go, or we could get a variable. Let's try that actually. Let's do something. So in the global view, we're going to do okay, so we do something, I'm going to set it. Now we should have access to it. which is good. There we go. So in this way we can call functions, we can do anything inside of the global view. So from here we're going to require a dashboard view. Which is, so if we just do the standard require like we normally do, then we're going to call a function. And what we're going to do, we're going to push this. Let's just require it first, and then I'll talk about how we push it into the main view, and we'll refer to something we created earlier. So we're going to go views dashboard. So we're going to create a folder called view. A new folder called dashboard. And create a new file called index.js. So if I close and reopen it, my Sublime's a little bugged, so I have to reopen files before it picks up the syntax. I don't know why. And if you know why, drop a comment. In this view, we're just going to copy one of the other views, grab all of this, and paste it in here. It's basically the same. And we can remove this element, need it, and we're going to require a dashboard page. We're going to go layouts, or actually templates, dashboard, index. And what we're going to do, if we ever want to pass stuff into this view, we're going to do it slightly differently than we did with the other view. We'll create a blank array for the minute, or blank object. And we're going to push the template, this data into the template using underscore. Whenever you see this is underscore. I'm going to grab this template, and instead of doing it how we did it before, we're going to just use the built template. So we're going to do, and we're going to pass the data in as well. So that lets us pass data into templates, and then we can use the framework called text.js to display that in a nice way. Okay. Thinking one. Okay, so we need to create the dashboard index. So in templates, create a file called index. Ooh. So in this index file, we're just going to grab something from Bootstrap snippets. Free templates. Shows. won't grab that. It's probably a messy example. Let's just grab this section. Should be nice. Okay. I mean, you can put whatever you want in this. You'll probably build a template yourself. So let's try that. So for this to work, we need to push this view into the main view. So in our router, we can, if you remember, in our view, we could set view. Do you remember that? So we're going to get the row, append this view to it. So let's try that. So there's our router. So we're going to do this, global view. We're going to do new. Just capitalize this. So we're going to do new view. We're also going to pass it in the global view as well. Okay, if you've spotted what's going to go wrong, props to you. You will not be able to call this .global view because you're inside of a like a function. I forgot what the word was called. There's a type of function here. Anyway, this refers to this, not the global scope. So what we can do is actually there's two ways you can do it. Self, this, self. I think that's a dirty way of doing it, and it's a bit of a cheat. So what we're going to do, we're going to do it better. We can use an underscore function called bind. I'm going to bind this to this, I guess. And that's going to basically allow us to bind this context to this function. It's kind of cool. Saying there's an error there. I don't think there is. Ah, I see why. Okay. Build template is not defined. So I probably made the spelling mistake. Yep. Awesome. So we've pushed in that view into the app view, and we've set the view. So if we created a new route, so we could in theory do okay, and that would load the test function. So these could be different views. You can just do this .global view set view. If we do test. Cool.
So that's pretty straightforward. So we're going to do some events, just to talk through Backbone events. Inside of our dashboard file, we can create an event. And it worked much the same way as routes, the same kind of format, I guess. We'll find something we can click on. Click on the image circle. That's a bad name. Okay, and then that becomes a function. Cool. So this is events in Backbone. So you don't need to use the jQuery events or JavaScript events. Well, these are JavaScript events, and you can do like key down, key up, stuff like that. I'm gonna test that works. Yeah, that works as planned. So we're going to quickly create a header and footer, and the best way to do that is very simply we'll create a this dot load view, load layout or something like that. And in here we're going to do okay. We're going to require a header and a footer. Footer. Now, the only reason I passed in global view is that if you wanted to access, say inside of the dashboard, you wanted to access the main view, you could do options, something like that. Then you've got access to do like triggers, anything, and all views will respond to that. So actually we can do some triggers actually. That might be quite cool. So we're just gonna console log this. To make sure we've got access to that. Cool, we're getting some triggers. We'll fix these errors later as we get to it. It's quite good to show you some events. And we're going to do okay. Now, we can trigger something in the global view. We could trigger anything in any view. We could listen to it. So let's just go to the. Let's just leave it like that for a minute, and then we'll trigger it in another view, and you'll understand. But that's how we do events. That's how we trigger things when we go. It's normally if you just want to trigger something in this file, you can just do. Yeah. So we're going to create the header and footer. I'm just going to pause while I do this and play, because this is just repeating what we've already done. Okay, so what I've done, I've just fixed the style sheet because I didn't have the real style sheet. If anyone spotted that, good on you. So I've created a header, a footer, and a footer.html, and a footer.js, header, a header.js. So if you look in layouts, we've got footer and header, and inside of the view we got header and footer. So inside of the routes, we're going to now create some. We're going to make sure we fix these first. Header, footer. Now in our core wrapper, we're just going to create a header and a footer. Pretty straightforward. And in the global view, we're going to create these functions we're calling in the router. So in the router, we've got the header, set footer, and we're passing in the view. So we're going to do and we're passing in the view. Remember to use this, so you never get you're never globally selecting, you're only selecting within this view. I'm going to select the header. We're just going to basically never need to empty it because we never reload that view. And same with the footer. Okay. Awesome. It all worked. So we've got a header that's loaded in dynamically. We've got a footer. Remember when we do events, we can do directly onto the view. So if we wanted to do some onto this, like if we wanted an event on that input field, we can do that. Fairly straightforward. I think I'm going to leave it here for the tutorial. Next we're going to work on collections and models, saving and getting data, maybe not saving, and look at how we can do promises in JavaScript to make sure things load in the correct order, and events. We actually created an event in our, where were we? In our dashboard we created an event. Let's just go ahead and listen to that event. So inside of, I can't remember the function, I think it's listen to. Okay, I hope I get this right. So, I'll tell you what, inside of the layout, we're just going to do this, dot listen to. I'm going to listen to the global view. I'm going to listen for the event. I think we call it yay. Call this stop. Okay, so what's going to happen? Hopefully, in dashboard, we're going to, when we click the image circle, we're going to send an event to the global view. Then in the header, we're going to be listening to that, and then we're going to call this function DA, and we're going to go.
That is events in a nutshell.
Okay, so let's try it. That's good. There we go. So we called an event on a completely different view, and we catched it. We listened to it because we had that global view at the very start. If we didn't have that, it would make things a lot harder. And that's how you pass things between views. It's as simple as that. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. Leave your feedback. Sorry if I went too fast. Sometimes I do that when I'm teaching people. But if you want to learn any other things in Backbone, or you want to do any of the JavaScript frameworks in this kind of sense, leave me a comment. If you look down below, there'll be a download link to the start and the end of this project. So yeah, just download and have a play. Yeah, go from there.